Thanks for tuning in, guys. My name's Doctor Dan, and we are exceedingly lucky this evening to have Doctor Terrance English give up his time this evening to share a little bit about his story. And hopefully we can draw on some things from his story. He's got a remarkable story. And the objective is to, draw on inspiration to help us get through really difficult times that we will experience in our lives, and B, hopefully also draw on some things to help us achieve our deepest, wildest goals and dreams. Thanks for having us, Terry.
Thanks for having me. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity. That means a lot.
Well, I think the appreciative side comes from us. I know a little bit about you, Terry. I know a lot about you. I don't think we've ever gone into your story though, where you started from, where you come from, and up to where you are now. For those that don't know who you are, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and what you're doing right now?
Okay.
Yep.
So starting with what I'm doing right at this minute, I'm currently working as an intern doctor at the Geelong Hospital. Graduated from medical school last year, and I did my medical school through the military, so I'm also an officer in the Airforce. So right now just doing my sort of mandatory 2 years in a hospital before getting posted with the military. And living here in Geelong with my wife, who is also a doctor. We met at medical school, and just trying to navigate and learn as much as I can from the hospital system, given that my career pathway is as a general practitioner, so the majority of my life will not be in a hospital. So just trying to gain as much exposure and experience as I possibly can during my hospital time.
What do you do in your spare time, Terry?
I consider work to be sort of dedicated time of my life, and also consider training in terms of martial arts and fitness dedicated time as well. So free time is any time in between that. So because I have to get that training time in. It's as important to me as work is. It's always locked in. There's an hour or two set aside almost every day to get those things done. So free time wise, I'm really into a lot of books lately, ranging from all different fields that I wish I had more time to study directly. So I finished a few Neil deGrasse Tyson books, which I really like, so science books. Reading a book right now on sleep and why we sleep, and just things that I wish I had more time to devote to. So between reading, I love watching my movies, huge movie buff, but the vast majority of my time is split between work and training. So
what type of martial arts do you do at the moment, Terry?
So I'm a black belt in Kyokushin karate. I'm going for my grading in a few weeks, actually, going for my second day grading, which has been the focus of my training for the past few months. I do that 2 or 3 times a week, and I supplement that with gym work, generalized fitness work that I can do here at home, and also a fair bit of swimming for cardio fitness.
What are your achievements in martial arts?
So I consider my black belt a huge achievement. I'm part of the Shihan Gary Vickers branch. That's one of the largest Kyokushin organisations in Australia, if not the largest. And they've got a really tough, stringent process for getting a black belt. So I'm really proud of the fact that I've got my black belt through this organisation. But I've also done a lot of competition work, more so in years gone by than currently. I'm currently the Victorian Super Heavyweight Champion. I returned to competition this year and won the Victorian state titles, which was a really big achievement for me. I've won that a few times now, 3 or 4, and I've also been Australian champion twice in years gone by, and represented Australia, winning a tournament in New Zealand, fighting in South Africa, and most notably fighting in Japan in the World Tournament in 2012. It was a really big honour to even compete, let alone have a fair bit of success when I was there.
When did you first start doing martial arts?
May 2005, I started in martial arts. It wasn't in the style that I'm in currently. It was at my local karate place in Traralgon. There's a few different karate places in Traralgon. One of them is Kyokushin, which I eventually found in 2009 and been with that style ever since. But prior to that, it was just a local karate group that wasn't really as hardcore as what I'm doing now, but it was good for me at my age of 15, I think I was, 14, 15. So I started off there, did a few years, sort of just learning some of the basic karate techniques, but it was all very non-contact and a fair bit of acrobatics involved as well. But then in 2009 I started Kyokushin karate, which is full knuckle, bare contact, full contact, bare knuckle, always, all the time. So it's a much more intense style of training, which was perfect for me at age 18.
So you do bare knuckle martial arts.
Yeah.
Is that scary?
It definitely was at the start. I was just thinking about when we were talking about some of those dates. I remember my first training session. The goal was just to survive through some of the fighting. It's very, when you're training, you obviously taper it to who you're training with and who you're fighting with. No one's trying to kill anybody, but you're definitely trying to push the other person as far as they can possibly go. So initially, it was very intimidating and very scary. But after a while, and sort of realizing that you're not made of glass and that you can handle a lot of this, and you're in fact even getting stronger and getting better, your confidence starts to rise. You can really lock into some flow states and just really go hell for leather. So I don't find it scary anymore. Competition is still intimidating, but in a way that I really get a lot of energy from. I don't tend to shy away from that. I tend to enjoy that quite well. Crazy.
As a doctor, you're faced with stressful situations a lot of the time, not just a strictly medical situation where it's life and death, but it's very emotional, not just for the patients involved, but it's obviously quite, it can be quite confronting when you, I guess, deal with some of the families that are also going through mixed emotions. I think a lot of it would mostly be quite sad or emotions. How does your experiences fighting with people with bare knuckles, does that have an impact on your ability to deal with tough situations? Has that made you has that given you a more profound ability to deal with really stressful situations?
Yeah, most definitely. I think you can break fighting down into really basic ideas, and a very common basic idea is that it's just a stressful situation, as you've alluded to. You can take away the specifics of trading punches, blocking punches, and trying to inflict damage on the other person. You just get used to that stressful situation. So, if you can shift that straight across into my work attitude. And so when I'm faced with these stressful situations, I'm quite comfortable. I've got plenty of time to think through, just as I do when I find myself in a combat situation. And there's also something really reassuring about any sense of confrontation or a really emotionally charged situation that, as correctly identified, happens quite a lot in my workplace. There's something about the psychology you can have towards it when you know that anything that could deteriorate into physical conflict, which never happens at work, almost never, you're more than confident and comfortable in that situation. So you tend to shift all your focus towards being really calm, trying to maximize your communication skills, because you've got this really confident, it doesn't matter how far down it seems like it's going, I'm not concerned about my safety and I'm not concerned about infuriating, and so you can really put your energy into just maintaining good communication and a calmness about you that seems to bleed onto everyone else around you, calm things down just by your demeanour all the time.
So, having these bare knuckle martial arts fights, when's the last time, from everything that you're saying, and from what I know you as, you're an exceedingly calm person for someone really who has the ability to kill someone else, me included. When's the last time you found yourself angry or hot-tempered or explosive?
That's a really good question. I think
When I say explosive, I mean explosive to the point where you're in a mood, and if someone said one thing to you, you would inflict violence or extreme verbal abuse.
I've done many years as a bouncer in the security world, working at clubs and nightclubs and pubs, some of the roughest in Victoria. And I think in a few situations that I can recall there, I find myself in those situations, but that's always directed to the main antagonist or the main person who's trying to inflict damage on me or someone else. But I honestly can't think of a time where I've been at that point where I think I'd lose control. I think that's the benefit of martial arts, is that if you were to do that, you're not in control of yourself, and you're not in control of what you'd be able to do onto someone else. And the more and more you train, the more and more you're aware of your own ability, and it comes with responsibility, like that classic Spider-Man sort of saying, with power comes great responsibility, and that's definitely the case in martial arts. So I find that the more emotional I get, the calmer I become. The more angry I become, the less I say, and the less I sort of want to use my body, if anything, just because I really need to check yourself when you're in that situation. But I bounced from a very young age. I was 18 years old in 2 weeks or something like that. I just turned 18. And fast-tracked my security license and got straight into bouncing because I had some friends that were in it, and it was good money for me at the time. And I was still young, fairly mature, and there were some really emotionally charged situations there, weapons being pulled and sort of pretty crazy situations, and I can remember reacting extremely violently in those situations, but that was out of either necessity for my own self-defense or defense of some of my colleagues who I cared a lot about. So nothing that I regret, but I think if I were to do that with my current training or my current experience, I would react in a very different way.
And how would that be? How would you react now?
With probably a lot of de-escalation before it even got to that point. I think even talking to people who are really upset and really angry, there are a few basic things that you can do that will validate what people are feeling and give them an avenue to escape that situation without having to use the violence that they're threatening you.
And would you use similar tactics like that in medicine when you're dealing with stressful patients?
Yeah, definitely. That's the sort of main aim of the game, is to make that patient feel validated, feel listened to, and you can't really fake it. It has to be genuine, and you have to want to listen to the person. You have to try to understand their situation, because that's all that anyone's trying to express to you when they're angry or stressed, and even hurling abuse at you. A lot of the time, that's not really the underlying problem, and it's up to you to be able to see through that and to really narrow down and say, okay, you're obviously upset. I can see that you're upset. I'm thinking that the cause of you being so upset would be something like this. Does that sound remotely correct to you? And if people can feel understood, feel validated, then they can really step back into that conversation where we can simply transact verbally without getting physical or breathing.
What's your age, Terry?
I'm 28 at the moment.
Have you always wanted to be a doctor?
Not by any means. So it was a very late decision for me. But growing up, I come from a military-minded family. My mum was in the army. My dad never served, but was a huge sort of military buff, military nerd. And my brother got straight into the Airforce as a pilot, and had a fair few years with the Roulettes, and still is a pilot in the Airforce at the moment, a very successful one. So I was very military-minded from a young age in terms of wanting to be a pilot myself. and did a little bit of flying when I was a teenager and really enjoyed it. But then got sort of swept up with a lot of the martial arts, and a lot of other influences in my life started to show me that there were other jobs that I could take on that seemed pretty interesting to me. So then I thought maybe a physiotherapist or even a masseur at one point. I did some massage courses and worked for a little bit like that, but didn't particularly find it overly stimulating. So then headed off to university and thought that I've always enjoyed the sciences and the maths and thought that I could study that at a higher level, but always knew that I needed to be employable. I needed to turn anything that I was interested in doing into making money. I didn't come from a situation where I had much money growing up, and I think coming from a situation like that where you're on the poorer side of the line instills in you a really cold hard truth that you need to make money to get by in this life period. It might sound materialistic, but I think it's a fact that is better once you acknowledge and sort of put it in your arsenal rather than trying to sound overly humble. So I knew I had to make my idea of maths and science employable, so I coupled that with a Bachelor of Education so I could become a teacher. And I used that as an income whilst I could sort of spend my days in these ideas and concepts that I really enjoyed. And that's where I met you, when I studied my first 2 degrees and living together in my first year. A lot of great memories from that situation. And then I worked as a teacher for a year at a fantastic school, Haileybury, in Melbourne, a really high-end, high SES school that was very far removed from my own personal experiences of schooling, and found it endlessly enjoyable. Really, really had a good time being a teacher. My day-to-day was very enjoyable, great colleagues to work with. Kids are always very positive and energetic, making me feel positive and energetic. But there was a little piece missing where I felt I could be challenging myself more. The work was engaging and fun, but wasn't challenging enough. I didn't feel like I was reaching my capacity in terms of my ability to sort of continue to learn at a fast rate. So with influences of yourself and a few of our other mutual friends, medicine was looking more and more like a realistic pathway for me. And through a mutual friend as well, I believe you've interviewed him before, Jordan Breed, he had the military pathway lined up as well, so he could do something in the military and also be a doctor. And they were my 2 passions that seemed to be emerging, so I thought I'd combine the 2 and join medical school to be a doctor. And so I was 24 or 25 when I decided I should try medicine, and was fortunate enough to get into my first try. So.
What were your grades like at school? In the end, at the end of year 12 or final year of high school, what were your grades like?
My grades were actually pretty good, even though at the time I didn't even want to be at school. You could have quoted me as saying school was a waste of time and I didn't want to be in school any minute longer than I had to be. But I was always able to pull out the necessary work when it mattered most. For me, it was always, if I can just get my work done at school, then I have more time to go train in karate. So I was always pumping in the time at school. When I was at school, I was doing nothing but schoolwork all the time. Socialising at lunch and recess by every minute. But in class time, every minute of that was useful, so that when I went home, I had no homework. I could spend every other minute of my day doing it wherever I wanted.
Was that in your final year of year 12? Was that your mentality then?
Yeah, that's correct. And I never did homework. I was always just using the school time effectively. And I did quite well. I think I graduated top of my class. I think with someone else we both were equal top. But I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't a fan of school whilst I was a student.
Did you, when you were in year 12, you said, school doesn't matter and stuff like that. Why did you still try?
Because I could, because I knew I could, rather, I should say, and that my mother, from a very young age, sort of always instilled the idea that you need opportunities. You can choose to say no, and you can choose to pick whatever job you want, but you can't say no to the job that you're not being offered.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of sense to me from a very young age, and I can attribute that directly to my mother, and then reinforced by my two older brothers. So even whilst I was at school and had this attitude where I didn't really want to be there, all I wanted to be doing was karate. Anything that was in between me and karate was a barrier. But I knew that if I finished school, then I'd have more opportunities than if I didn't. And if I chose at a later point to do something that did not require a school education, that's fine, but that was a choice rather than it being imposed upon you. And that's something I still live by to this day. You want opportunities. You can choose to say no, but if you don't have that choice, then you're not in control of your own world.
How important is year 12?
I think at the time it's very important, and that's true. And I think looking back, it doesn't seem as important, and that's also true. So those two things are obviously not congruent with each other, they don't match up. But at the time, year 12 is a huge part of your life, and it is important to apply yourself and to do as best as you can to give yourself those opportunities. But once you move past that point, you've got lots of different ways that you can still achieve your goals, even if you've quote unquote missed that boat of year 12 already, or you've left school already. There's plenty of opportunities, especially in this country, to get to where you want to be.
Do you have to get good grades at high school, or do you even have to complete high school to be successful and do well at life?
Not at all. Not at all. So my eldest brother Stephen, the pilot in the Airforce, he finished school and did quite well, and I finished year 12 and I think I was done okay. The middle brother Michael, who unfortunately passed away, but he didn't finish school at all. He left at the end of 10, I think it was, and was, before he passed away, was just as successful as my brother and I. Probably even more so, given that he died at a young age. He was much more successful at his age than my brother and myself combined. Depending on your definition of success, with my mind, he was very much more successful than the rest of them.
What's your definition of success?
I think it's leading a life that you can be proud of, and that you've got the choice to help others, and the ability to help others. So my brother had really rich, strong relationships with everyone around him. Something that's, I still try to emulate today. Anything academic minded, my oldest brother is a huge influence for me, and is a really determined, driven man himself, and I get a huge amount of inspiration from that. And anything sort of people related, social skills, and sort of making other people feel loved and feel wanted and involved in relationships, I get from my other brother Michael, because he had extremely rich and giving relationships that I think really successful Michael.
If there's a year 8 or year 9 person watching right now, and they say, well, I don't like school, or if they say, I'm not good at school, what would your advice be to them if they were to ask for it?
Quite a common feature, and myself being an ex-school teacher, encountered this quite a lot, especially in various school placements I had at university. And my advice is that the school is not trying to teach you the day-to-day content that you're going through. If you don't like maths, that's fine. You're going to be fine in life with a very basic understanding of maths that you've already got on your side by the time you reach high school. And if you're not a fan of English as a language, and you're not a fan of PE or religious studies or anything, if your school does that, that's fine. And it's not a reflection of what school is trying to do for you. No one is going to say no to the idea of trying to make themselves better. Okay? Everyone wants to improve and wants to become more. I think that's a very natural part of being human, and it can easily be influenced by people to dull down that drive, but you've got to try to maintain that through both yourself and finding the right people around you to influence you. And that's what school is trying to do. School is just trying to give you a set of skills on how to learn, and learning means improvement. So try to look past the day-to-day grind of school. As I said, I didn't enjoy it when I was there either. But school isn't about trying to teach you that maths equation or how to write that sentence correctly. School is just trying to teach you how to cipher through information, how to learn, and how to become better.
So, if there's let's say there's a year 8 or year 9 student, and they're contemplating that they don't like school, they don't think they're good at school, your advice to them is to, look past that and stay in school?
Yeah, if that's, I think school gives you more opportunities than not, the vast majority of the time. So if you can move past these initial barriers to you staying in school, I think that's a good thing overall. I think education is probably the biggest opportunity that I've been given. But as I said, for my brother, it was not the right place for him. Year 8 or 9, I think you've still got a few years of trials left to see if school is really for you. And you tend to get more choice as you move through the high school system. So, I wish I could speak another language now, but at the time, I hated language studies. So, I dropped that subject as soon as I could, which I think was year 9. As you move up through the years, you tend to have more choice. That's how the vast majority of high schools work. But I think you owe it to yourself to stick it out a few more years as a year 8 or 9 student to sort of the point where you have more choice about what you're learning, and that can sort of dictate whether or not you still enjoy school.
So let's say a year 8 or year 9 student listening takes your advice. And I know that you obviously finished year 12 and you got quite good grades. Let's say they get to year 10 or 11 and they're getting a lot of pressure from their parents to stay in school. And as I said, you obviously finished year 12, but they just feel like school's not for them. They think there might be a bit more hands-on, or would you have any comments to them if they would ask you for advice?
Yeah, I think a huge part of my life has been using the right people at the right time. And almost every school in Australia has a teacher or a faculty member whose job it is to help you line up where you want to go in life. And so, it's very difficult when your parents are on your back. They're always influencing you, to do something that at the time maybe you don't want to do. So you need to go to a third party. You need to go to someone who isn't as familiar with you, isn't as constant in your life, and someone who you think you can respect their opinion. And I think the school will have someone like that almost always. So you should go and talk to them about realistic career pathways, realistic pathways that you can use in that immediate future. Maybe school isn't for you and it isn't the right way for a lot of people. And as I said, there's still plenty of ways you can achieve your goals. But it's always important to talk this through with someone who's got more experience than you. It's silly not to, right? You've got to find that person who has some of the answers you're looking for and can help you get there. And a lot of the time that's your parents, but unfortunately for a lot of people, it's not their parents. Maybe their parents don't fully understand what they're trying to do or what they're trying to achieve. And as unfortunate as that may be, you need to just move on and find the person who can give you what you're after. And so I think school is the first port of call, but even someone like yourself, I would highly recommend to people in your areas come talk to someone like you. Someone who can give a balanced view, tell you things maybe you don't want to hear, but at least be honest.
Yeah.
Have best interest at heart.
What about work experience?
I think work experience is always a fantastic idea. So I did work experience with my older brother Michael as a sheet metal worker, and again really enjoyed that work. Similar to teaching, I really loved each day going to work, but I knew it wasn't for me quite quickly. Which is why I can understand why school wouldn't be for someone. You can have a good time while you're there, but there's a part of you that is always going to be honest with yourself, and that's a really important part of yourself you need to get in touch with. And I could tell quite quickly that, okay, I'm loving this job as a sheet metal worker or a tradesperson, but I wouldn't be happy for the rest of my life. It's not for me. So work experience offers you that. You need to step into that world for any given period of time, and just try to listen to yourself. Can I do this for 30 years? Can I be happy in this profession? And quite quickly you can get the answer. With practice, you'll get the answer faster and faster.
Is being a doctor something you want to do for the next 30 years?
Definitely, but not in the traditional sense of the word. So a lot of people think of doctor, think of white coat, clipboard, very clinical, very matter of fact, or in a hospital environment, say. But I'm really excited about my future career with the military and possible deployments and extra training. So I love the idea of being a doctor for the next 30 years, but it's my idea of a doctor. And that involves running extra courses on the side for military, other military personnel, teaching them medical skills and techniques. Excuse me. And also trying to work my way into niche areas of industry such as aviation medicine, even combat medicine, which I'm doing quite a lot with the karate group at the moment. Areas where you need a doctor, but you don't always necessarily think that a doctor is working in that area. But hopefully, in 20 years I'll be in an industry that probably doesn't exist yet. And that's the kind of doctor that I want to be. I don't necessarily want to be the professor sitting in the hospital. I think I want to have a much more a nuanced or specific way of being a doctor.
There's a lot of young people and people in their 20s, 30s, 40s and 50s that don't know what they want to do with their life. Or there's some people like yourself who wanted to become a teacher, and they were really headstrong about becoming a teacher. Like you were very headstrong about becoming a teacher, and then you changed your mind. If starting with people that are not entirely sure what they want to do, is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Is it okay? What would your advice be to someone like that doesn't know what they want to do with their life?
I think it's definitely an okay thing to experience, and I would almost go so far as to say that everyone has experienced that. And anyone who says that haven't, is probably not telling you the truth. So it's definitely an okay feeling to not be sure what you want to do with yourself. And it's also, it's hard to be optimistic in those situations. It's hard to see the glass as half full. But you're sitting at a situation where you get to choose what you do with the rest of your life. And that's a great choice. That's a fantastic situation to find yourself in. As horrible as you might feel at the time, you might feel lost. You might be really struggling with the fact that you don't have a plan yet, which is never a nice feeling. But it's also a remarkable opportunity that you can find yourself in. We're extremely lucky in this country that is a problem for us. For a lot of people, the choice doesn't even exist. So there's no question of what am I going to do, because they're not even at that state. They just have to do what they're told, or be forced into something that they're not happy with. So it's okay to feel that way. There's part of it that you should be quite happy about, that you're even in that situation where you have a choice available and you get to now, survey the landscape, as it were, and pick something that motivates you, that drives you, it's going to make you better. And as I mentioned before, when you're talking about work specifically, it's got to make you money. It's got to be financially responsible.
So for, let's say there's a 13, 14, 15, 16 year old, even a 17 or an 18 year old sitting down listening, and they don't know what they want to do, and they feel a bit depressed about it. You're telling them to be optimistic. What's the plan? What do they do? What's the concrete plan? Do they just drop out of school and go and find a part-time job? Do they keep their options open? Do they achieve high grades and just pick something? Do they take a gap year? What would your recommendation be?
as I alluded to before, the things that my family instilled in me is you need to, when you've got a lack of clear plan, a lack of clear direction, you need to make choices that offer the most amount of future choices or future opportunities, future pathways. So if you're in school and you're not this way or the other about whether or not you should stay, I think you should stay, because whatever you can achieve outside of school, you can do with or without that school qualification. So my generic or baseline choice is to stay in school so that you have more opportunity. And then as if you try to get good grades, the higher your grades, the more opportunities. It doesn't work the opposite way around. The less that you can put to your name and the less that you can put down means the less choices that are normally available. And you need to go outside of academics for that as well. You need to be maintaining relationships around you. You need to be friends with the right sort of people that can maximise your opportunities in terms of emulating or taking from them inspiration on how to become a better person, how to challenge yourself more and achieve more. I can remember living with you. I think my study habits were terrible before I met you. Your study habits were really inspirational too. At a time where we could have been relaxing and partying, which we did a fair bit of as well at the time. We earned our right to relax, but when it was time to study, you were locked in and focused. And I said, this is a guy similar in age to me, very similar personal interests, and he's choosing to put the hard work in. I said, well, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me, and you gave me really good study habits. So you've got to maximise your opportunities academically and through school, but also maximise your opportunities in terms of who you surround yourself with. Pick good influences.
Let's say someone takes your advice and they get good grades in year 12. They're finished year 12 now. They still don't know what they want to do. What would your advice be there? Should they just pick a course, pick a general course, take a gap year off, just go and get a part-time job, do some travel? What do you think?
So I can use my own story as an example, because that's exactly how I found myself. So I finished year 12, I had quite good marks, and had no idea what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to be a pilot anymore. I know I didn't want to be a tradesperson like my brother. So both my brother's occupations were out for me. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So what I chose to do is take a gap year, but also do some level of learning through that year. So I enrolled myself in a certificate in occupational massage, I think it's called. So I was going to take 2 days a week and learning a massage course. That was very conducive to still having loads of time off and enjoying myself in the gap year and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I wasn't going to let myself get off scot-free. That year still had to equal something tangible. Had to equal something that I could put on the resume, or something that I could show to the world that this is what Terrance English did in 2009 was my gap year. So what Terrance English did in 2009 was he got a massage qualification where I could pick up work tomorrow as a masseur. I could open my own practice as a masseur just based on that year. But that gap year was probably more important to me because that made me realise, okay, I think I do want to study more. I did quite a lot of travels. I backpacked around Africa in my gap year, which gave me a huge amount of experience in terms of how the world really works, how lucky we are here in Australia. You just come back a completely different person where you want to take on as many of the opportunities you've got around you. Education is so accessible here in Australia that I thought, of course, I'm going to go to university and try to challenge myself and learn more. And it's I've ended up in a very academic sort of career lifestyle, and all that could have changed if I didn't travel and see the opportunity that I was missing back home.
So you took a year off, you made the most out of your year, you were productive. Not everyone did what you did. Some people went to uni. Some people might not have finished year 12. Some people might have finished year 12 and just went off and got a job or became tradesmen. Everyone has their own, little way that they do things, and whether it's what their parents or mentors want them to do or not. You're really proud of, and you're really glad you made the decision to have a year off. And I finished year 12 and I went straight into uni. And I was very glad with my decision that I made. Like every decision like that, there's always some slight pros and some slight cons. The pros with me going straight into uni was I didn't mess around. I was a qualified dentist by the time I was 24, 25. The cons, about what you did is that you're slightly older now than the people that you're doctors with. But at the end of the day, it's not a race, because all the people that you go to school with, the people that you go to uni with, 99% of them, you're probably not going to talk to them ever again in your life. And that's life. That's reality. And we're all on our own journey. And if everything's going to be okay. We live in a country now, and we're in a time where not all of us, but I think most of us can go and stay with mum, live with their parents for that year, have a roof over their head. It's not do or die. So we can even get Centrelink and stuff like now. I mean, it's such a fantastic country where you can get all these different kinds of allowances and stuff like that, and it's enough to live. You got the basics, and most of the time I think the best things in life are free, and you can live and still be happy on the cheap. So yeah, if you're not sure what you want to do, I think the moral to that story, if you're not sure what you want to do, like you weren't, I was. Not everyone is. That's for some people are 50 years old, they don't know what they want to do with their lives. But it's exciting to keep your options open. And I think it teaches you a lot. And when you achieve things like that, you go out and you do your masseuse course, you go and travel in Africa, learn about the world. It adds another layer of self-belief. You know what? I travelled around I travelled around Africa and backpacked. I got my masseuse course. If I can do that, I can do anything. I've got nothing to lose. I've just seen people that live on $1 a day in Africa, and how they live. Yeah. And, wow. Now that I think about it even more, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to aim big now because I've just got nothing to lose anyway. So, but, so...
Aim as hard as you can. Even if you miss, you're still going to be... that trajectory is going to land you somewhere better and somewhere more special than where you are. Why not aim as high as possible?
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, what are your current goals?
So currently, I've always got short-term, medium-term and long-term goals in mind. I think goal setting is a huge skill, and doesn't come naturally. And I think it's like anything else. It's like learning how to drive or learning how to ride a bike. You can't necessarily do that with no instruction and with no practice. So like anything else, I practice my goal setting and become better and better at it. So my short-term goals are to get my next grade in karate, to go up to a second dan. That's only happening in the next few weeks, which is going to age this recording quite a lot when I look back on it. And then to get back into competition. So I fought again this year with some success, thankfully, but I had to take a few years off throughout med school. So I want to get back into competition and start to attain that success that I've had the pleasure of experiencing in the past. Medium term is to get into the College of General Practitioners, and to maximise my time in the hospital and to be a really good intern, be a really good junior doctor here at the hospital. Don't want to do anything in halves. I want to use that time really effectively. And then the long-term goal is to not lose touch with how much I'm learning at the moment. This is quite a compressed time in a doctor's life. Medical school definitely in the first few years out. You're learning a lot from you're always working with experts in various fields, so you get the benefit of lots of exposure to different people. So my long-term goal is to try to maintain this sort of lifestyle where I'm always in touch with different experts in their field and getting as much as I can from them. So that's a sort of a work-driven goal. There's also family and relationship goals. So my long-term goals is to have a family of my own with my wife, and to move on in terms of where we're living, our sort of standard of living, which should vary up with the career choice that I've made, and then also just to continue to plow ahead with karate. I'm going for my second Dan soon, but hopefully in years to come, if I'm lucky enough, third Dan, fourth Dan, and above. I don't see an end point. I just see continuing on. That's the plan.
So this will be something that'll be interesting to ponder. We hold slightly different values in this aspect. We may find some agreements in it, actually. Well, I guess we haven't truly explored it. But does money make you happy?
Not having money makes you unhappy. But I think there is truth to that phrase, definitely. I think money does bring you some semblance of happiness, but it can't be the sole way you access that happiness. If it's by itself, it'll quickly lose that flavour. But when it's married in with other hardcore importance, tangible things you can put your hand on, which you can with money, and you can use it to put at other things that you can definitely lay your hands on. I think it's understated. It's unpopular to say that money makes you happy, but I think, especially in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, I think I've come around to more to the side of saying money can definitely make you happy. By the fact that not having money makes you unhappy.
Yeah. When you picture your dream house, Terry, what do you picture? How does it look? Describe it to me.
I can picture it quite clearly. So, as I said before, goal setting is a skill, and I like to think I'm getting pretty good at it these days. So, my dream house would be a 2 to 3 acre property with a large 2-story house, huge bay windows that are north facing in the southern hemisphere, so you get all that beautiful sunlight coming into your living area, so you get all the, you can wake up when the sun does and get the most out of your day. I've got a swimming pool off to the side just to keep that fitness part up. I've got a gym in a shed adjacent to the house. Again, you just want these things ever present in your life. You've got to get into that gym. You get up every day and you have a shower, and no one has lacks the time to have a shower, so there's no other excuse. You've got to get into the gym just as much. You have to brush your teeth, you have to shower, and you have to get in that gym. You have to get your fitness time locked in. So having those on the property definitely helps. And I'll have a karate school, what we call a dojo, on that property again for sure, which will be a negotiating factor with my wife, I can imagine. But she likes to have a bit of a playful argument, but at the end of the day, she's very much a supportive person in my life and would be on side with me in a goal like that. So have a dojo on the property, beautiful sunlit windows, large garage filled with quite a few cars, I imagine. Got a list running on the sort of vehicles that I want sitting in that garage.
How many cars?
So at least 4. I've currently got 3 cars, and 2 of those would be happy, or definitely one I'd be happy to put in that garage, and they would stay there for the rest of my life. So I achieved that dream car aspect of my life at a relatively young age. So I bought my dream car last year. I was very fortunate to find myself in a position to do that. That's something that I'll never sell, and I'll just sit there looking prettier and prettier as the years go on.
It's funny you talk about dream cars. When I was 15 years old, my dream was to have a red Ferrari by the time I was 30. I'm 29. I'm 29 now. But it is still a dream of mine. I'm a little bit different to you. I'd like I want quite a simple setup when I get older. Keep things, very. I mean, the place I'm living in right now is exceedingly minimal. Story for the viewers: when I moved into a place which I'm renting at the moment, it was fully furnished, and I pretty much got rid of all the furniture. Even the bed was up on a frame. I got rid of the frame. I put the mattress on the floor. To that extent, and I'm someone who hates clutter. I just like to keep things as minimal as possible. But when I asked you about how you pictured your dream home, I wanted to demonstrate that contrast between mine and your, I guess, ideology in a way, as to you like, multiple cars, large house, whereas I'm actually the opposite. And I guess a question for the viewers to ponder is, what type of person are you? It is what it is. I mean, myself and you, we've had failures in our lives, absolutely, but we've also had some massive successes at a young age. We can always be better, but there is no right or wrong way as to whether having many things or having very little things helps or hinders you. I guess it just comes down to personal preference. But yeah, it's quite interesting, that contrast.
Yeah, I agree.
Terry, how many street fights have you been into? Fist fights, slaps, punches, anything with at least a shove and like a little bit of maybe a headbutt or a slap, like that constituting one street fight. How many have you been in approximately?
It would be triple figures, 100%. It would be over 100. It would be probably heading towards. I don't think it would be 1,000, but it would probably be 500 or 600, I would think. So Traralgon is a wonderful place to live. I mean, there are plenty of happy families there, varying ages. But the nightlife in Traralgon is particularly dangerous. And I grew up, literally on the wrong side of the tracks, in the lower SES area of Traralgon.
What does SES mean?
The socio-economic status, so just a grouping of, being a poor area, lower income,
yeah,
less secure housing. So I grew up in that kind of environment. Everyone can picture that, the rundown part of their community, and that's where I grew up. And so I was exposed to unsavoury people throughout my growing up. My family were always great to me, but plenty of fights with my older brothers. Just having three boys in the one house sort of means fights is inevitable. But yeah, growing up at school and on the weekends, there's quite a active drug scene in Traralgon, which tends to go hand in hand with violence.
Where's Traralgon?
It's 2 hours east of Melbourne in Victoria. Me talking like this will paint a pretty bad picture, but Traralgon is a lovely place. We were just talking about that very concentrated area that's present in every town and city in Australia. I just happen to be in that area most of the time. And then especially when I started working as a security guard, there was a lot of altercations in that profession.
When you were under the age, you said earlier when you were 18 you were quite mature and collected, well composed during times of physical intimidation and conflict, like when you were bouncing. Were you like that when you were 14, 15? Were you a violent person? Were you recklessly violent when you were younger? Or have you always been very respectful and well-mannered?
I think I probably did find my...
Sorry?
Yeah, I think I found myself in more of those violent situations than I probably should have. And it would be incorrect to say that I didn't play a large part in that. But I think I probably was a fairly angry and violent person in my teenage years, which probably led me in towards that martial arts. I wanted to, be in that environment of physical violence and combat, and sort of see what it was like. I tended to enjoy it when it was happening in the street, and so I thought I should be in this environment as much as I could. And nearly every martial artist will tell you the same thing: the more and more you train, the less and less violent you become. And that's definitely the case in this situation. I can't ever envisage me getting fight again.
Did you look up to people who also got into street fights when you were young?
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Why?
Most of the time it was to the aid of friends. So I've always been quite good at sort of talking to people and finding them on their level. So even when I found myself around someone who was being a bully or being really intimidating, most of the time I was able to sort of talk my way out of those situations. My friends, not so much. And like a true Australian, there's no way I'm going to let my friends be hurt when I'm there. And so a lot of the time it was in the aid and defence of my friends that I get involved in these situations, and the vast majority of them were physical violence, unfortunately. But
why do people be bullies? What causes someone to be a bully?
That's a really good question. Everyone has their theories on why that is, and I think taking a few of those ideas, I think I agree with them. Such as a bully is normally someone who's being bullied in other aspects of their life. So when they're getting external pressures or having a bullying figure in their life, a lot of people tend to react or deal with that by bullying others, which is a very classic human behaviour. You model the behaviour that surrounds you. If that's bullying, then you're going to model that behaviour as well, which isn't an excuse. As soon as you're aware of that, it's up to you to be able to change that behaviour. But I think the vast majority of the time, a bully is someone who's bullied themselves. And at other points, a bully can just be someone who's trying to exert their authority in response to feeling threatened themselves. So the classic case is, the school jock bullying the school nerd, because the jock knows that the nerd knows more than him, is doing better, him or her, is doing better than them in the classroom. They're getting the grades, getting the teacher attention, so they'll try, an aspect that they might be physically stronger, being that school jock, they'll try and, exert their authority onto that person in an area where they can dominate. My advice is get into martial arts and be the nerd who can beat people up.
Well, that was my next thing. So yourself, or if you had a son, or if you were mentoring someone and they were being bullied, your advice would be?
You have to react with confidence to a bully. It is unacceptable for someone to treat you that way, and it's unacceptable for you to let yourself be treated that way as well. I'm not saying it's easy. That's a very different thing to say. It is not easy to be bullied and to find the best way out of it, but there is a way out of it, and that's with direct confidence back. And if they're being physical towards you, when you are within the laws of this country to react physically back in an equal way. So I think martial arts is definitely something that I would recommend ubiquitously, recommend to everyone, because I think it gives you that sense of confidence. You can react confidently if it's a physical situation, and you can react confidently even if it's a verbal or a mental situation, because you've got that physical aspect covered off. If things go that way, you're definitely winning, and you want to be able to confidently say that at every point of the day. You can do smart things like, you might see that angry gang on the side of the street, cross the road, walk on the other side. That's a good piece of advice, but I'm the type of guy who says, I'm walking on this side of the street and I'm walking through that gang regardless. You're not making me cross that street. I'm walking through you. And martial arts gives me that confidence. This is my country like it's everyone else's, and no one's making me cross the street.
Yeah. Well, thanks for those words of wisdom, Terry. I'm sure all the boxing memberships phones will be ringing through the roof. I feel like joining a boxing club. after hearing that. No, it's really good, and yeah, it's important to have that confidence, isn't it?
Definitely.
You're really getting me thinking. I really feel like starting up martial arts again. You're inspiring me, mate.
Yeah, I know some great Kyokushin karate places there in Tasmania. They've produced some world competitors. It's fantastic.
What's the most difficult time you've experienced in your life?
So I'd answer that in sections, I think. So I've experienced physical difficulties, or physical challenges such as karate gradings and high-level competition, hard fights. So in that regard, my black belt grading stands out as one of the hardest physical things I think I've ever done. And fighting in Japan was one of the hardest physical things I've ever done. Then you've got the sort of mental side of things, and the mental challenges. I think medical school definitely, particularly my third year or second last year. Those exams I found particularly difficult, and a very long, stressful year. And that was probably one of the hardest mental things I think I've ever done or achieved. And then there's the emotional side of things as well. And by far and away the leading factor in that situation was the death of my brother when I was I was 16 when my brother passed away. And that was by far the most difficult emotional situation I found myself in. So you can pick different aspects of my life, and the struggles sort of vary across each period.
How do you deal with those stressful situations? How did you deal with it? Would there be anything you would have changed with how you dealt with it?
With the death of my brother, or
starting with that.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything I can change. So it was a trauma or an accident, a car accident. So something out of the blue. Not the majority, but a lot of people experience death in the elder members of their family, which doesn't always come as a surprise, which is a different thing. You can probably do a few things to help prepare yourself for situations like that. But in my situation, it was out of the blue. There's nothing you can prepare for in that regard. So I think there's nothing I would change. My family came together as a really tight unit. My parents are separated, but my dad returned to Toronto for the funeral and days after my brother passing, and we just locked back in as a family unit. We're there for each other. We're a religious family. We believe in God, and that was a huge aspect of pulling us through that particular situation. So there's nothing I changed there, and it's not something you can be good at or bad at. But I think my family, all in all, handled it quite well as it can. And in terms of the other areas of my life, so the mental challenges being med school, that's something you can see coming down the tunnel towards you. So you've got to map things out in advance. You've got to plan it just like you plan to build a house. If you just sort of attack building a house with no plans and no idea what you're doing, it's going to be a house that's unfit to live in. And it's the same with struggles you go through in life. I knew I had to plan how I'd get through medical school, so I just had to put in those hard yards and those study days and get all the knowledge that I needed to get through those exams, which I fortunately did. And similarly, in the physical aspect of challenges that you go through in life, I knew that black belt grading was coming. I knew that Japan tournament was coming. I've got to map things out well in advance, put in those training sessions, be as strong as I can be, hit my goals, be on target, be the right weight, be the right speed, be the right fitness level, and get the job done.
When your brother died, it was the most difficult emotional time in your life. At the time, I could never relate. Did any positive come from that death?
Yes, to answer that question. So I mentioned this a little bit before, that my brother and his relationships with the people around him were and so he had three brothers. The three sort of family and friends of his. Those three are brothers, and they were all friends with my brother. And they sort of formed and importantly acknowledged a brotherhood of their own. So they would call each other brother. They had their brotherhood. They were proud about it. They'd tell anyone who would listen about it. And that really fostered an extremely rich friendship amongst those four individuals. And it led into the other friendships of his life. Anyone who knew my brother knew him as a warm, loving character where you were always welcome, and it has that ability to sort of listen to you and validate you, as I mentioned earlier, something that I try to do in every aspect of my life now. So the good to come out of that situation was, a reminder that although his life was short, he was only 21 when he passed away, that he impacted so many people just by being a genuinely good person and by acknowledging those friendships. I mean, it's a very typical guy thing or male thing to have a close friend that maybe you don't tell how much they actually mean to you. But that wasn't my brother. He'd tell you at any opportunity he could how proud he was, how much he meant to him. And when he passed away, I had a really, I wasn't left wondering what he thought about me or what he wanted for me or, whether or not he was proud of me. I knew those answers, and that was a huge relief and a huge area of being satisfied. And so the good to come out of that that's what I try to do. I mean, I want to acknowledge the people who are important to me. I want them to know exactly where they stand in my life, that I appreciate them, that I love them, that I respect their opinion, that I crave that opinion, that I'll seek it out. So I think I've tried to emulate that as much as I can. It's not my natural state, it's not my natural personality, but I think over the past few years it has become part of who I am, because it was just so important to me to have those questions answered, that I want everyone in my life to know exactly what they mean to me.
After your brother died, how long did it take you to realise that you actually got something positive out of it? Was it instant, or did it take a lot of grieving and kind of a doom and gloom? How long did it take before you realised, wait, there is something that's actually positive that's come out of my brother's traumatic death?
I think it would probably be about 2 years or so, quite a long time. And I can actually remember the moment, because it was when I'd entered into a new romantic relationship, and this person had never met my brother. And just me talking about him, I got the feedback of, wow, you seem to really love these things about how we have relationships with so many people, and I see you doing that very obviously. And I thought, oh wow, that was a huge compliment at the time, and still remains a very nice compliment to get from someone, that they can see me, telling people how I feel about them in all the good ways. So I think I'd only really realised it when I found myself in that situation, and that was 2 years, I think, after 2 or 3 years after the fact. So yeah, it definitely wasn't self-aware. It took someone else to point it out to me.
And I think that's a good lesson that we can all take from that, is that what appears to be, an unfathomable kind of, an unfathomable event that can't appear to get any worse than that. There is a positive. You can always take a positive out of a negative, and your story right then about what you're saying about your brother really illustrates that and demonstrates that. So if you're going through a tough time in your life, stick it out, tough it out. It'll get better. It will get better. This is proof. So it might not be tomorrow, it might not be next week, it might not be this year, but it will get better. And you need to remember that and believe in it. I think, as you said, you need to believe in that. And I think if you're one of the very lucky people like yourself, Terry, that have a family to draw upon during those tough times, or a best friend. If you're lucky enough to have one, even one family member or one friend, I think you're a very lucky person. So the lesson that we take out of what you're saying is, when you're going through a tough time, A, draw upon those close to you for strength and pull through it for them, and B, know for certainty that it will get better. You will get positivity from it, and you'll come out of it bigger, better, and stronger. And I'd like to add something onto that from my own personal experiences. And it's less common. It's very common in adulthood, but when people go through difficult times, they tend to resort to alcohol, drugs, gambling, violence. Try and avoid those if you can, because it's like a lobster. When a lobster's growing in its shell as an embryo and as a baby lobster, it goes through stressful times because it has to break through its shell. If you go up to that lobster and you crack it open and you let it out of its shell, it doesn't encounter that stress and it dies in the wild. So let the lobster break through its shell on its own. Don't go to the doctor for some... Look, I'm not a general practicing medical doctor, but I personally don't think it's the smart thing to do. I gave my dad some advice the other week. He wanted to get on some antidepressants, and I said, you're creating yourself a dependence. You need to get through this sober, straight, substance-free, and you will become that adult lobster, and it will actually make you stronger. And if you get through that, you set yourself up. It's a confidence builder. You set yourself up for the next most difficult time, and it will get easier. So,
I couldn't agree more. That's a great analogy. Fantastic.
Well, I think it's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I'm sure you've had a big day, and as have I. But it really has been an absolute honour to have you doing a video interview with me, and I'm sure all the viewers appreciate it as well. We really appreciate it, mate. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. I loved the opportunity. It means a lot to me that you thought of me in this situation, and I'm more than happy to participate in, and open to doing plenty more. Happy to.
You are a true gentleman, mate. I mean that, and for a guy that, really, I mean, you're a walking machine gun, but you're not reckless about it, and that's what I love about you. You carry yourself, and I see it when you're with your partner. You are a chivalrous man. You are very gentlemanly. You've got impeccable manners. You've got good etiquette. For a boy from the wrong end of the train tracks. You are a thinker. That's what you are. I think you are a very deep thinker, and I don't know what that's. I don't know where you've gotten that from. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's your genetics, or I don't know if it's the people you've grown up around, or a combination of both. But you are the thinking type. You are the philosophical type. You explore things in depth. I'm right, aren't I?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, mate. You have a fantastic evening, and I really appreciate your time.